very warm welcome to Bharata First. I'm Frank Rausen Pereira. This is FRP Explains. First, let me inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, a learning experience that will help you in your competitive exams journey and transform the way you learn. Our courses have already begun. We have done one on what's important in newspapers and international relations, and Indian art and culture classes are ongoing. Do join this incredible journey by going to kc.bharatafirst.com and register now. The limited open only for a few more days. This is your last chance to make full use of it. Since you're here, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon and then all notifications, and do spread the word as well so that more people get to know about Bharata First. Well then, today I'm going to take you through the history of another troubled land. They say that it's a land that has never seen peace, and it's unfortunate, isn't it? There have been several battles that have been fought on this land, and it continues in that direction till today. I'm talking about Afghanistan. Here's the history of Afghanistan in under 12 minutes. Sit back and enjoy the show. Afghanistan, a landlocked multi-ethnic country located in the heart of South Central Asia, lying along important trade routes connecting southern and eastern Asia to Europe and the Middle East or West Asia. Afghanistan has long been a prize sought by many empire builders, and for millennia, great armies have attempted to subdue it, leaving traces of their efforts in great monuments now fallen to ruin. The country's forbidding landscape of deserts and mountains has laid many imperial ambitions to rest, as has the tireless resistance of its fiercely independent peoples. So independent that the country has failed to amalgamate into a nation, but has instead long endured as a patchwork of contending ethnic factions and ever-shifting alliances. At the gateway between Asia and Europe, this land was conquered by Darius I of Babylonia in 500 BC and Alexander of Macedonia in 329 BC, among others. Muhammad of Ghazni, an 11th century conqueror who created an empire from Iran to India, is considered the greatest of Afghanistan's conquerors. Genghis Khan took over the territory in the 13th century, but it wasn't until the 1700s that the area was united as a single country. By 1870, after the area had been invaded by various Arab conquerors, Islam had taken root. During the 19th century, Britain, looking to protect its Indian empire from Russia, attempted to annex Afghanistan, resulting in a series of British-Afghan wars between 1838 to 42, 1878 to 80, and 1919 to 21. The modern boundaries of Afghanistan were established in the late 19th century in the context of a rivalry between Imperial Britain and Tsarist Russia that Rudyard Kipling termed the Great Game. Modern Afghanistan became a pawn in the struggle over political ideology and commercial influence. 1921. The British, beleaguered in the wake of World War I, were defeated in the Third British-Afghan War between 1919 to 21, and Afghanistan became an independent nation. Concerned that Afghanistan had fallen behind the rest of the world, Amir Amanullah Khan began a rigorous campaign of socio-economic reform. 1926. Amanullah declared Afghanistan a monarchy rather than an empire and proclaimed himself king. He launched a series of modernization plans and attempted to limit the power of the Loya Jirga, the National Council. Critics frustrated by Amanullah's policies took up arms in 1928, and by 1929, the king abdicated and left the country. 1933. In 1933, Zahir Shah became the king. The new king brought a semblance of stability to the country, and he ruled for the next 40 years. 1953. The pro-Soviet General Muhammad Daoud Khan, cousin of the king, became the prime minister and looked to the communist nation for economic and military assistance. He also introduced a number of social reforms, including allowing women a more public presence. 1956. The Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev agreed to help Afghanistan, and the two countries became close allies. 1957. As part of Daoud's reforms, women were allowed to attend university and enter the workforce. 1965. The Afghan Communist Party was secretly formed. The group's principal leaders were Barbara Karmal and Nur Muhammad Taraki. 1973. Khan overthrew the last king Muhammad Zahir Shah in a military coup. Khan's regime, the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, then came to power. Khan abolished the monarchy and named himself president. The Republic of Afghanistan was established with firm ties to the USSR. 1975 to 1977. Khan proposed a new constitution that granted women rights and works to modernize the largely communist state. He also cracked down on opponents, forcing many suspected of not supporting Khan out of the government. 1978. Khan was killed in a communist coup. Nur Muhammad Taraki, one of the founding members of the Afghan Communist Party, took control of the country as president, and Barbara Karmal was named deputy prime minister. They proclaimed independence from Soviet influence and declared their policies to be based on Islamic principles, Afghan nationalism, and socio-economic justice. Taraki signed a friendship treaty with the Soviet Union, but a rivalry between Taraki and Hafizullah Amin, another influential communist leader, led to fighting between the two sides. At the same time, conservative Islamic and ethnic leaders who objected to social changes introduced by Khan began an armed revolt in the countryside. In June, the guerrilla movement Mujahideen was created to battle the Soviet-backed government. 1979. American ambassador Adolph Dubs was killed. The United States cut off assistance to Afghanistan. A power struggle between Taraki and Deputy Prime Minister Hafizullah Amin began. Taraki was killed on September 14th in a confrontation with Amin supporters. The USSR invaded Afghanistan on December 24th to bolster the faltering communist regime. On December 27th, Amin and many of his followers were executed. Deputy Prime Minister Barbara Karmal became Prime Minister. Widespread opposition to Karmal and Soviets spawned violent public demonstrations. 1979 to 89. In the last quarter of the 20th century, Afghanistan suffered the ruinous effects of civil war, greatly aggravated by a military invasion and occupation by the Soviet Union. 1984. Although he claimed to have traveled to Afghanistan immediately after the Soviet invasion, Saudi Islamist Osama bin Laden made his first documented trip to Afghanistan to aid anti-Soviet fighters. 1986. The Mujahideen received arms from the United States, Britain, and China via Pakistan. 1988. In September, Osama bin Laden and 15 other Islamists formed the group Al-Qaeda, or the Base, to continue their jihad or holy war against the Soviets and others who they said opposed their goal of a pure nation governed by Islam. With their belief that the Soviets' faltering war in Afghanistan was directly attributed to their fighting, they claimed victory in their first battle, but also began to shift their focus to America, saying the remaining superpower is the main obstacle to the establishment of a state based on Islam. 1989. The US, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the Soviet Union signed peace accords in Geneva guaranteeing Afghan independence and the withdrawal of 100,000 Soviet troops. Following Soviet withdrawal, the Mujahideen continued their resistance against the Soviet-backed regime of Communist President Dr. Muhammad Najibullah. who had been elected president of the puppet Soviet state in 1986. Afghan guerrillas named Sibatullah Mujahidi as head of their exiled government. 1996 to 2001. In subsequent armed struggles, a surviving Afghan communist regime held out against Islamic insurgents, and following a brief rule by Mujahideen groups, the Taliban rose up against the country's governing parties and warlords and established a theocratic regime. The Taliban regime collapsed in December 2001 in the wake of a sustained US-dominated military campaign aimed at the Taliban and fighters of bin Laden's Al-Qaeda organization. Soon thereafter, anti-Taliban forces agreed to a period of transitional leadership and an administration that would lead to a new constitution and the establishment of a democratically elected government. Osama was killed by US forces in May 2011 in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The war in Afghanistan continues till date, with factions within Afghanistan and global powers vying for supremacy. Well, that's it on this special edition of FRP Explains. I hope you liked the program. If you like the content, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. And do spread the word about Bharata first, because more people need to know about this platform. For those of you who would like to come forward and contribute, you may do so by using our UPI IDs. A small contribution that you make will go a long way in us continuing to bring this content to you. So do continue to show your love and support. That's it from me. See you again next time.